For structural.
The structural thing, so it doesn't, so it allows.
The overhead.
It allows you to kind of, just do that. So
Around
what
all
what you do is you contact.
My skills are unique set.
We're good. Yeah.
Okay. So welcome to, I'd like to call to order the Northborough Southborough Regional School Committee open meeting of Wednesday, March 18th. It is 6:32 and we have 9 members in attendance. Joan is virtual at 6:32, like I said. So to start off, the first thing on the agenda is we have a public hearing for the fiscal year 27 budget. And I will open that public hearing and turn it over to you.
And I'll turn it over to Becky.
So good evening. The Northborough Southborough Regional School Committee is committed to providing an exceptional educational experience for all students in a cost-effective manner. The district believes that strong partnerships with parents, the community, and the town government are essential in developing a fiscally responsible and educationally sound school budget. The school leadership team and the school committee utilize their budget priorities, the district's strategic plan, Vision 2026, and the mission and vision of the district as guiding principles throughout the budget process to develop a budget that supports an exceptional education for all students. Copies of the FY27 school committee voted and approved line item budget are available online at the central office and at the Town of Northborough and the Town of Southborough offices. Tonight I'll be providing a total of the FY27 budget subcategories by function classification as part of the public hearing process. For administration, and that's function code 1000, that totals $795,544. For function code 2000, that totals $12,734,883. For other student services, the 3000 series, that totals $3,159,114. For operations and maintenance of buildings, the 4000 series, that totals $2,420,117. And for fixed charges, the 5000 series, that totals $6,627,812. And then finally, programs with other school districts, the 9000 series, that totals $300,000. For our total regular day programs, the FY27 budget is $26,037,470. For special education in the 1000 series, it totals $12,500. For instruction in the 2000 series, that totals $3,522,830. Other student services in the 3000 series totals $748,661. And that is offset by special education transportation circuit breaker of $72,089. Operations and maintenance of buildings, the 4000 series, is $6,708. And then finally, for programs, non-public schools, the 9000 series, that is $1,088,118. And that is offset again by the circuit breaker reimbursement of $752,264. For our total special education programs budget of $378,817. The total operational budget for FY27 that is being proposed is $31,416,287, which represents a 5.81% increase over fiscal year 26.
Thank you. Is there any public comments or discussion? Seeing no one in the public, I think we can then go ahead and close the public meeting on the fiscal year 27 budget. Okay, so at this time, we now have audience sharing. Would anyone on the committee have anything to say or like to add thing? Seeing none, we'll move on to our next item on the agenda, which is the action on the minutes. In your packet, you will find copies of those minutes listed on the agenda. So I will, I'll collapse that into one vote, and the way we'll do this, that to approve, I will entertain a motion to approve the action on the open meeting minutes of February 25th, to approve the action on the, to approve the collective bargaining subcommittee open meeting minutes of January 15th, and to approve and retain the collective bargaining subcommittee executive session minutes of January 15th, 2026.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Paul. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I had one other thing. I think it was the open meeting minutes for the last meeting. We had Mitch Cohen as chair of the Board of Selectmen,
Yeah,
which he no longer is, I don't believe.
I was gonna bring that up, yeah.
So you could either say former chair or just strike that clause.
Former board member, whether he was a chair or not, yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other comments? Do I need to amend that motion then with the changes? No?
As amended.
Okay.
There you go.
So I will then take a vote. It's going to be a roll call for those three that I mentioned, including the correction. And I'll start with Joan.
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes,
Paul,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
and myself, so that passes unanimously. Next up on the agenda is educational policy. There's none at this time. Next up is new business, the legislative update.
So we're still waiting for the House and Senate budgets to be released. We expect that to be in the next few weeks or next month. And today we did learn that the House Ways and Means Committee did file a supplemental budget to allocate the FY25 surtax surplus funds. Rep. Kilcoyne and Rep. Donahue did file our fair share amendment for Northborough, Southborough, and the region for special education. I did speak with them yesterday, so that's good news. We'll see where that lands. And primarily the surplus surtax funds are allocated for regional transportation and circuit breaker, special education, transportation reimbursement, which was at 61.36%, and using the surplus funds, bringing it up to 75%. So we'll wait and see.
Any questions or comments? Thank you. Next up is the fiscal year 25 audit report.
Becky?
So last Monday night, March 9th, the audit subcommittee met, and we had invited Tom Scanlon, who is our fiscal auditor, as well as Parker Elmore, who does the evaluation report for our OPEB. And so they both presented their findings for fiscal year 2025. Tom did present that there were no findings in the audit. He highlighted the fact that the OPEB really is driving some of the numbers within the audit report. And then we had, I think, a great conversation about the OPEB and talking about the district's obligations with OPEB, and then also about the Worcester Regional retirement assessment. That's something that is included in our operational budget each year, where we are paying a certain assessment to that retirement system for those members of the district who are not members of Mass Teachers Retirement, with the hopes that that financial obligation would be paid off, I think it was by 2035. And so, there was a lot of conversation, I think, about retirees and the cost of retirees when they leave the district, and what, I can't remember the exact number. I want to say it was like $35,000 after that, or am I totally off on that?
I thought it was,
Or three,
we can
Yeah.
find out.
yeah, we'll find out. I think it was a good conversation, and both reports were favorable for the district in terms of our financial systems that are in place, and so I welcome any comments from the two committee members who were present.
I can make a couple comments. Thank you, Becky, for summarizing. I think that captured my notes from the meeting well. So Scanlon Associates is providing an unqualified opinion is beyond the fact that there was no findings. What probably is most impressive in the dialogue is just how complimentary Tom was of the support of Becky and the team, and just the quality of our records. And, you know, he provided some context in comparison to what he may see in other, other districts, and, you know, how pleased we should be with just the overall condition of the financial statements and the records. So I took that as a significant positive. We did spend a significant amount of time chatting about the OPEB liability and how it contributes to the net position, which is $16 million of a negative net position, which is largely driven by the $48 million liability that we have, or $40+ million liability for the OPEB valuation. We also have our debt, and we also have the pension that Becky mentioned. As part of the pension valuation, or the OPEB valuation, one of the things that we discussed that put a little bit of context to it is as significant as that liability is, we do find ourselves, and I think by recollection, it was somewhere in the 20-25% quartile of other districts. So we actually are better positioned than others, although it is something that they suggest that we continue to work at. So presently, we're funding our OPEB valuation, or our asset account, at $25,000 a year. I think going forward, maybe in next year's budget, if the opportunity presents itself, we should consider providing more funds into that asset account to provide some relief to the liability.
Yeah, our funding ratio right now is just over 1%. In comparison to looking at some of the other regional school districts, Air Shirley was at 0.44%, Central Berkshire was at 6.79%, and Acton Boxborough was at 17.05%. And I think for Massachusetts average, just for their clients, they're seeing 15.59 is kind of the average across the state of Massachusetts in terms of what the funding ratio is. So, but we are making contributions, so that is positive.
I think we also talked about developing a 10-year plan, and like the capital funding that the school committee committed to, having a 10-year plan where each year incrementally increasing the amount, so that it is a commitment and it is steady investment over a period of time, because the window is closing in terms of outward years. But also Matt had mentioned that there is some flexibility of how that money can be used. If there is healthcare increases, so there are some mechanisms how that money can be used in the future if we did have a significant amount in that investment.
Any other questions or comments?
So the only thing we would need to do is vote on the financial audit, the FY 25, 26. Wait, what year are we in? 25.
FY 25.
25.
And John has a question.
Sorry, can I
Yes.
ask a question?
Yeah.
Sorry. So when I was reading this, I was a little surprised. How did we get Scanlon and Associates? So I grew up with Tom, so I'm just a little surprised that he's coming out an hour and a half. Like, are there any CPA firms closer, or I guess how did we get to South Deerfield firm doing our books? Is that normal?
So we did we request for proposals for an auditor. This is our sixth year.
6 year with them.
So a number of firms bid on
Really?
the audit, and Tom was one of the people who bid, and he came highly recommended. I think a lot of municipalities use,
They do.
Tom, in the area. So,
Just seems pretty far for him, so
Yeah.
I was surprised.
I think they're used to traveling, so, and it's,
And so,
It's
do
pretty-
we put the bid up 6 years ago, or is it every year?
so it's actually, we don't need to go out to bid for auditing services, but we did. But that's one of the exclusions from Chapter 30B. So if the committee wanted to go back out to bid, we could certainly do that for the upcoming year.
Do we feel that the pricing is reasonable?
Yes, yeah. And they've been, I have to say, Tom and his team have been very responsive to us. If we have questions, we can pick up the phone and call them, and they'll help us. Like, it's not just related to the audit, but they will give us guidance.
We did have a conversation with Sunny, the district accountant, and every 7 to 10 years, we should look at going out and having a new auditor. So that's kind of where, within that window in the next few years.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm happy for Tom to rebid, but just it's good to, have that competition. Great.
And a fresh look at our data.
And I will also add that Tom also audits the town of Northborough as well. So they actually had just gone out to bid, I think, 2 years ago, and they selected Tom or Scanlon and Associates as well.
Who does Southborough then?
It was Rossetti Clark, it just changed over. Scanlon did not submit a proposal to Southborough, but I can get you the name. I can't remember off the top of my head. It was Rossetti Clark, though.
Any other questions? So Becky, can you remind me again, we need a vote on,
A vote on the fiscal audit on the FY25.
Just have one comment.
yes.
I mean, thank you for that summary, because that was lacking, I think, from the report. I mean, I was looking for some sort of executive summary that just summarizes what these hundreds of pages say, and couldn't find it. So I think going forward, if we ask them to do something like that, I mean, I understand they're not supposed to be expressing opinions on what kind of shape, I don't know, but just something that summarizes it for the layman among us.
Just a quick comment on OPEB. I think OPEB is kind of an interesting, like, concept in terms of like how we look at that cost and it being, I think Matt, you said it was 40 million overall.
The liability.
Yeah, the whole liability,
Yeah,
yeah. And
it's like $2.3 million of operational costs each year.
So, I think it's interesting, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when they do actuarial tables to determine what those costs are, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I heard them say that they factor in somebody living to 120. Is that the age? There was an age that they said when they're calculating the OPEB, there's like an age they actually bring out, and they assume that everybody is going to survive to.
No, I'm not sure, I have to go back and look at the report. I would have thought they would have been looking at the mobility tables from the IRS.
Yeah. But I was struck
Which
by.
probably has the possibility to some extent someone could live out that far, but probably the average is.
Less so. Yeah, it was less so, right, but it's, to me, it did seem as though when they're calculating those values, they seem to me to be more on the extreme side of, lifespan.
Yeah. And I think the comment too was, in 40 years, how long will people live? And I think there was a comment around that as the age.
A potential
Yeah.
age.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, there's a significant amount of assumptions that
Yeah,
go into
yeah.
it, but it's
Yeah.
a detailed computation, or an actuarial computation.
Any other, okay, so at this point, I'll entertain a motion to approve the fiscal year 25 audit report in your packet.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, and this will be a roll call, so there's no discussion, right? Roll call vote, Joan,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes,
Kathleen. Yes. Sean,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
and I'm a yes, that passes unanimously. Thank you. Next up is the library department presentation.
Sure, so it gives me great pleasure to introduce Kim Honey. So Kim is gonna tell us all about the library. She gets to spend her days here and we get to visit her in her space, her home. So Kim, why don't you welcome to just kind of advance as you like.
All right. Stand in the way. Thanks for having me today. It's fun and exciting to kind of share some of the things that we do here in the library. So a few years ago, the district librarians, we got together and we decided to kind of form this as our mission statement. So when we're doing things in our own personal libraries or together, we kind of use this to guide us so that we have some similarity through the 3 districts. But here at Algonquin, these are my main focuses, is to support curriculum. We do this through careful collection curation to make sure students have access to resources that are reliable, current, and reflect the current course offerings. Reading for pleasure has been connected to increased test scores, academic success, and increased reading stamina, which helps them when they get into more difficult curriculum. And independent reading is really encouraged in most English classes, and we work to ensure that there's a variety of independent reading books in the library that appeal to the wide interests of our levels of our students. We support students' curiosity by helping them find reliable sources that encourage them to explore their own personal interests. Here in the library, we have over 2,000 reference books for students to use, more than 8,000 nonfiction resources, and over 7,000 fiction books. We're continuing to genreify the nonfiction section so kids can find books by their interest. So if you go by and there's a bunch of different dots, we have a guide that they can find sports or fiction, or mystery, historical fiction. 45% of our collection is considered diverse, and then 32% is social emotional learning, which is higher than the state average, which is nice. And we work hard to have a variety of access points for students so that they can get the information that they need in multiple ways. So every member here at Algonquin has access to the New York Times and the Atlantic magazine. As the freshmen come in, they're shown how to get access to Sora and sign up for a Boston Public Library e-card. Both of these resources provide students access to ebooks and audiobooks in a variety of languages. Through the Boston Public Library, students can access Biblio Plus, Canopy, Hoopla, and Flipster. These services provide students access to international movies, books, and music. For students who have disabilities that necessitate the use of audiobooks, they have access to BARD, which is provided through the National Library Service for the Blind and Physically Handicapped. And Learning Ally is available to students who need access to audio textbooks. Due to some federal budget cuts last year, students lost a big chunk of access to Gale databases, which we were one of the highest users in the state. But thanks to a collaboration with the Northborough and Southborough Public Libraries, we were able to reinstate their full access to that suite of services. So luckily, our students have access to over 80 different databases. And in these databases, they can have resources for career exploration, SAT prep, AP prep. And the Gale databases allow students to have different access points to the same information. They can listen to it, and they can also translate it into over 40 different languages. Collaboration, I think, is one of our strong suits here at Algonquin, and we really work with a wide range and a great number of our faculty members to support student goals in the curriculum. We provide tailored instruction to support and expand specific lessons. We curate resources. We help build research skills and media awareness. For our, delayed. So in addition to being really active space during the day, if you ever have a chance to come in here in the morning, it's really busy. We support student learning outside the classroom and beyond the school day. Students sponsor guest speakers, the honor societies hold tutoring sessions, and groups like Best Buddies hold nighttime events. And we work hard to really support the community here at Algonquin, but we're also building connections outside the building and in the wider community. This year, we collaborated with the public libraries in Northborough and Southborough, and I'm happy to say, I would say 98% of our freshman and sophomore classes have public library cards. And we also work with town organizations such as Southborough Youth and Family Services and Northborough Health and Human Services to develop programs that support mental health and positive relationship initiatives. Algonquin's library and student volunteers have been instrumental in creating some unique experiences for students across the district. This year, I'm excited to say we had our third annual Ennisborough Reads event, which was once again very well attended despite this cold snap. The second annual Read Across the Boroughs happened last week, and thanks to a grant from the Northborough and Southborough Cultural Councils, we'll be inviting Jonathan Todd for a cartooning workshop in April. And we are coordinating across the district an event in May, which is going to be a library hop, which is going to kick off summer reading across the district. And we get to welcome teachers in here with their group of kids. So Brian Kellett in his AP Government class had some students come over from Peasley, and they had a American Government Day where they got to teach each other a bunch of stuff. So it was really great. And so we are very fortunate here at Algonquin to have the space, the resources, and the support of the administration to develop and carry out all of these wide events. So I just want to thank you for supporting and valuing the library. It's great to work in a district that appreciates and supports libraries and provides that, I think, acknowledges what we can provide to the learning community.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi. First of all, thank you for letting us use your space. It's very, very comfortable. A little chilly, though. Keith was working on that. So thank you for that. We very much appreciate that. Question for you. I have one question. I have two questions, I guess.
Sure.
It says up here at the top that 13.9 items per student. That means, on average, a student is taking out 13.9 books?
No. So what that means, and the reason why it's red, is so when we divide the amount, this says that we have 13.9 items in this library per student. Whoops. The recommended amount is 20 per student.
Oh.
So.
So do we have a stat as to how many books an average student takes out?
I could look that up. I can tell you what the circulation is. I would have to divide it per kid. I mean, we certainly have some high flyers who are checking out 50 things a year, and we have some kids who will never check out a book the whole time they're here, unless it's required.
I see. Okay.
But I can get those numbers for
You don't have to get the form. I'm just curious if that's something you're tracking, or?
I mean, we certainly track circulation. So how many books are going out, and I could look up a student and find out how many items they checked out. I can look up what's our most checked out items. And we do that a lot when we do, weeding of the collection. So we did a massive weeding of like the nonfiction 2 years ago, where we scanned every single book to see how many times it had gone out and determined if it should stay in the collection or not.
Great. So thank you. So my last question is perhaps unrelated but related. So at Southborough Library, they have a puzzle night.
Yep.
So would you ever consider participating in that?
You mean-
Or do you have puzzles here?
Oh, we have plenty of puzzles here. You mean for us to have a puzzle night here?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because one of the Math Honor Society, you mean the competition puzzle night?
Yep.
So
It was
the
last
ma-
night.
oh, okay, so the math department, I think it's the Honor Society, they were entertaining having a puzzle night. I'm not sure where that has gone yet, but I would love to host it if they wanna run it.
Great, thanks.
Hello. Over the years, I've really enjoyed when you've come. And what I've also really enjoyed is just how beautiful your reputation is, how active this library is. And I was interested in what your take was on reading today. Is it, I know, 7 years ago, there's just sort of this generation that went through, it's like, we do not read books. Do not assign us books. And I'm like, you're in college, you're paying a lot for this. What do you, I'm interested in what your take is on reading, particularly with the social media influences, and you as well.
Yeah, well, I think the kids who really enjoy reading want to read a physical book. They like the texture of it, they like being able to flip through, they like the physicality of the book. I would say this year, I think we've had, in the freshman class, a wave of readers. Like, they are fast and furious, and it's been exciting to say, they'll come in and say, what recommendations do you have? And you'll be like, well, what about this, what about this? And like, I've read it, I've read it, I've read it. So it's made me work really hard, which has been great. But I think with the cooperation and the integration of independent reading in the English classes, I think kids are realizing, and this is kind of with freshman year, right? If you have a book that you don't like, and I think this is the hardest thing to teach them, is you don't have to finish it if it's for independent reading. That's a hard habit to break for kids. Like, no, if you don't like James Joyce, if it's independent reading, you don't have to read it, And I thought it was interesting, Goodreads has just added a new tag of books I did not finish. So hopefully we'll get kids that it's not a bad thing not to finish a book. So I think, we get some kids who are reading, and also I think the big thing is having kids recognize for independent reading, graphic novels count. It is literature. There's a lot of depth to some of those books, and so that has been a shift, and so I think that has helped reluctant readers get on the bandwagon.
Nice. Do you see any shift from the fact that cell phones have been compartmentalized out of the school day?
I'm gonna say no. I think, kids are reading, more in class. That's really not a question for me, because in here, we don't lock down cell phones. So, when they come down with their class, their cell phones are away, so I think they're very engaged with the selection of books, but I'm not sure how that's impacted their reading in this space, at least.
I'd say anecdotally from the English department, students' stamina for reading long passages and sticking with a book is definitely slipping over time. There's no question about that.
That's nice to hear.
That's definitely, and that's years, that's years in arriving to us.
And what do you need from us in terms of funding? You said you didn't have quite the number per student.
Well, it's kind of one of those things that's hard to ask in such a tight budget. Books have become more expensive like every other thing. But we're lucky in that we have access to Sora, and so we can expand the reach for kids.
And my last question is, has there been any effort to ban any type of books within our system?
I'm gonna knock on wood. We have been very, very lucky, very lucky. The only 2 incidents I've had since I have been a librarian has been the reverse of one summer reading the books that they didn't feel were diverse enough. So we are, at least I am in a very different place than many people in the state.
Okay, thank you.
I'm very lucky.
Sorry, follow-up question.
Yep.
So, on Kathleen's question, if a student wants you to get a book, can you go get it for them? or you have to buy them? Because at a regular library, you can just ask them and they'll go get it and they'll deliver it to you.
Right, so, I mean, no. We can borrow books from other libraries, but we typically do not we do that for faculty, not technically for students, because it's too hot. By the time it gets here and a student wants to read it, it's almost already due. And then, so I might request a book from Interlibrary Loan and it comes from Southbridge. And by the time it gets here and I get it to a student, our students don't read on the same 3 or 4 week pattern that we might. So by the time I have to now hunt that student down and get it back, it's overdue.
Yeah.
So, but I've been very lucky, that most books that students want, and it's a high demand book, I can usually get it within the budget.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Matt had a question and then, go on.
Can you explain the book acquisition process and the budget to, do you have a set dollar amount that you
Yes.
have to spend every year?
Yes, and so at the beginning of the year, I encumber a good amount of that with Follett, which ties in with our Destiny, which is our library software. So when the books come from there, they're already processed, which means they have barcodes on them. I have card catalog records for them, and if they're nonfiction, they'll be generified. And then I also use part of that budget kind of to talk about, was just about getting books for kids that I can then, through Amazon Business, get it right away if a kid needs it.
Maybe just expand on how you choose which books to acquire versus others.
I'm sorry, one more time?
So how do you decide what books to bring in?
So, I go through school, I use a lot of different professional journals to determine what are the books that are, up and coming or should be in your library. So when I use the school library journal, it will rank books, it will give a verdict if it should be in your library or not. And there's a whole there's Horn, there's a variety of different resources like that. And when I buy from Follett, every book I look at, it will give at the bottom the reviews that have been given from Kirkus, School Library Journal, Horn Book Review. So I can look through those and see what independent reviewers have said. If they think it's a first book, it should be in your library, or this is a second choice, or, don't bother. So all the books that I purchase, I go through a different, I look at the reviews to determine if it's a book that's appropriate for our library.
So just a quick anecdote, because I've been doing this a long time, and this was probably a long time ago, and it was in Southborough, but during a particularly tight budget year, it was a joint meeting with the selectmen, so we had a selectman in the school committee meeting with us, and because it was such a tight budget year, he looked around we were in the library at Trotter, and he said, "Why do we need all these libraries? We have a Southborough library, and we spend a lot of money funding it. Why do we?" And I just want to tell you, he got eviscerated.
That makes me feel very good. Yeah.
So we might be a quiet, silent kind of majority, but we are a majority of communities who really support our libraries. So.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm very lucky because when I go, I'm on the Mass School Library Association, and, we hear horror stories.
Yeah,
Horror
Marblehead
stories.
is closing theirs
Wow.
because of a budget deficit. They are closing their library in Marblehead.
Wow.
Shocking.
So I appreciate the support.
I have a quick question. So what can we do to get us up to the 20, to get that number up? Do you take donations? Are there fundraising efforts that the community can engage into?
Well, donations are tricky because in the past, people like to donate the books that they're cleaning out of their parents' house, which then just becomes a problem for me because, it's hard. I mean, the big thing is, I mean, I guess I could employ, like, some of the elementary schools, I could make a wish list. But I shy away from donations unless it's very specific, because then we just become the clearinghouse. So, I mean, I think it's just, I mean, fundraising would be one way, I just would have to think about the best way to do it. I think we are very well supported, and I don't want to overstep that. You know, I think I'm very well supported. And it's, you know, and the other thing too is part of the numbers, it will go up over time. I just did a massive weeding of the collection. So I was removing books that we had from the original opening of Algonquin. So they no longer serve their purpose. So right now we're I'm recovering from that because I did a massive weeding.
And I'm also wondering, the Southborough Library does like their, when they do their cleaning out and they do like a book sale, and that money can then be, so, and I don't want to put more work on you, but this could be a good, student project or something like that, if there are other creative ways that you might have, in which we can support, or the community can support that. Okay. Any other questions?
We could do donate a birthday book, like we do at the elementary level.
Yeah, that would be good. I could make a
Their
whole
name and
list. Yeah. Graduation book.
Yeah.
Do that.
So what is the practical effect of being short of the 20 per student guy?
I mean,
Are kids ever coming in for something that you can't have or can't get?
Like I said, until the budget freezes, I am in a very good position in that I can order from Amazon. That number, once again, is a suggestion, right? It's the pie in the sky. The 20 is the pie in the sky. Very infrequently do we not have a resource that a student needs. But because we have access to a lot of databases, we can find it. For example, I had a student come down from forensics the other day, and they're like, I really want to do my project on this case where it was in 1962 in Hungary, when they solved, the guy had blood on his hands, so he went to open the door and he hit his nose and lips up against the door. I don't have a book on that. But through some, I can't remember the name now, but there's a specific science of studying lip prints. And so using that, and then going 1962 Hungary, we were able to find some information in the National Institutes of Health. So there are databases that we were able to dig into. So, those are, we run up to that every once in a while. I'm like, I don't know, pie in the sky. But I'm not going to buy a book on 1962 Hungarian science. I'm just not going to do it. But, so we're, the thing is, I think we'll get to that number, because, as long as, the funding stays what it is, we'll get back up there.
Thank you.
I will just add that in high school, students spend a lot of their unstructured time in different places, and a lot of them make their way to the library, and the library can really set the tone for the culture of a school. And I think we have the pleasure of being in this room a lot, and as warm and engaging as you feel it is, it's a truth that it is a really fun, cool place for kids to hang out, and the adults who spend time in here really are really friendly to the kids, and the kids like being here. So, we're really lucky to have Kim steering the ship here, but we also have two other individuals who do a nice job. So when you walk in, there's some spirit day that they're leaning into and projecting, and there's lots of displays, and it's just a really fun, good place that sets a tone of warmth and friendliness around the building.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Do you have a book recommendation for us?
Oh.
What would you like it on?
Hungarian lip reading.
I'll get that one for you.
Genre?
I know, just need to know the genre.
Mystery.
Oh, Thursday Night Murder Club?
Thursday Night Murder Club.
It's the name of it. It's a show on Netflix.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh,
How would you like to watch the movie first?
No, read it first. Thank you.
Kim,
Thank
before
you.
you go away, I have a request to get me back on to All right,
Who's making
not a
it?
book request.
You, yours, did you
I-
sign?
You're on a
I didn't
guest.
sign in.
It's
Just
a
guest.
guest.
Yes. Yeah.
We're already in guest. Let's try it again.
I know, but then he's gotta log in. It's kinda Googling.
Yeah, if you can hit new line cast, yeah, that,
New line,
yep.
As much as-
Yeah.
Oh, widget, I gotta wait till the widget loads.
One of those, I don't know, new line?
Okay.
Okay, yes, we're getting close. Yeah, if you hit got it, and then I should be able to log in.
So I'll just say, next up on our agenda is the superintendent's report to the committee, as we're waiting for the screen to load with the student rep report, I think, starting us off.
We are
When we
pulling it
get
up
there.
and.
Do a dramatic.
Okay. All right, almost there. Oh. Can you click on that new line again? Sorry for the difficulties, everyone.
On Sean to the right,
Okay.
in the box on the right.
What do you want me to do over here?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Yep.
There you go.
Okay, and. It's about there. Okay, all right. Thank you for your
Thank you,
patience,
Kim.
everyone, and thank you, Kim. I apologize for the delay. I don't know why that was happening. Madison is gonna tell us all about what's happening in school.
Sure. So hi everyone. As an update for the student advisory committee, from what we've been hearing, in terms of cafeteria food, some students have been saying that by third lunch, the cafeteria, especially the main meal, seem to be running out of options. The students say that it's not necessarily for every meal, more so select meals that maybe are more popular than some of the other options like pizza and salad. But that is something of importance to note. And then in terms of mental health, I think students are seeing a little bit more issues dealing with stress and mental health just in general. It could be a combination of our very eccentric weather, or it could be a combination of classes that typically pick up around this time, especially preparing for AP exams and things of that nature. In March, there's definitely a lot happening at Algonquin, a lot more than what I've included. But this is just a snapshot of some things that have happened so far. So the junior class got to hear from a Holocaust survivor. This was a whole class presentation. And then the MAJE festival, which is the jazz festival that Algonquin hosts, occurred, which was really fun for those students participating. DECA had their states last week, which I heard went very well. Little Women, the winter play, happened last week, I believe, as well, or the week before. And it was very good. I saw it the first night, and it was really amazing. So I would definitely recommend anything that Gonk Stage puts on if you haven't seen anything yet. The National Honor Society hosts an annual Easter egg hunt, which they've been preparing for. It's open to the community, so if you know anyone who wants to attend. But this is a really fun event where kids can get their Easter egg hunt and then play some games afterward and just have a fun Saturday morning. The Micah Showcase, which is a sort of competition festival that the choirs are going to this year, is happening March 28th, and then the Showcase, which is the concert here at Algonquin, is happening the 24th. Miss Honey touched upon this, but Read Across the Boroughs for Seniors happened, which was really fun. I know I participated in it, and it was really fun to go back to my elementary school and see all the kids and have that sort of like remembrance. The AP Government kids came here at the library to teach about the different 3 branches of government to Peasley students and helped prepare them for their government test, which was the next day. And then the Career Expo field trip occurred. This was a great opportunity for students to learn more about different careers and opportunities that they might be interested in. Here are a few more. Again, this is not a finished list by any means. The Algonquin Rating Center went to a trip to 1st graders to teach them a rating course. HOSA had their annual blood donation, which went very well. Girl Up is having a donation drive, as well as the food drive for Student Council. Student Council is also hosting their volleyball tournament, or they did host it. And then the Mock Trial Club had their revamp this year, and they did very well. And then Jazz Night, which was originally canceled but then rescheduled, occurred. And then as a club spotlight, I've decided to spotlight the math team this month because of the fact that their varsity team has qualified for states for the 2nd year in a row, which is a huge achievement. But this is a club that meets and competes October through April, and they focus on a wide variety of skills and use their meeting times to focus on certain regions and questions in mathematics to gain proficiency to then be able to compete. And again, their varsity team qualified for states, which is very exciting. And that's it. Are there any questions?
So I have a 2-part question, I guess. One part is for you, and then the second part is more on the administration side. So on your first slide, when you give the updates about the cafeteria on mental health, how are you getting that information, or are you surveying students, or how are you noticing these issues, I guess is the first question.
So as of right now, it's mostly just hearing what students are talking about around the building. The Student Advisory Committee just finished finalizing our survey that we're sending out. Mr. Bevan just looked it over and approved it. So we're hoping to send that out early next week so that we can get some physical data and numbers to show for the April meeting, but that'll be more concrete.
And there are a few questions on there about what level of stress are students struggling with, what's causing the stress, what's contributing to it. So we'll have a little bit more concrete info to share.
Thank you. And then my second question, I guess, is for you, Sean, or other admin. So, and this is particularly related to the cafeteria question, because you brought this up, I think, at every meeting. And so my question is, what's being done about this? We've had food services come, but I do think it's an issue, if this continues to be a complaint of students, you're bringing it here to our attention, and then it's kind of, I'm not sure what's the follow-up, how are we dealing with that? And same with the mental health issues, when you see things like that, how does the administration respond to some of these concerns?
Sure. So I don't know, Keith.
You can start, Sean.
Yeah. So Maddie and I met to talk through what she was planning to discuss, and that came up, and she brought it to our attention again. So I've asked Mr. McGowan is one of our assistant principals who works really closely with the staff in the cafeteria to monitor, especially third lunch, when we see these kind of peaks and valleys of students eating high preference foods, and then there's none left for that. That's our job to make sure that we're having those popular meals be ready for the kids without overdoing it and throwing too much out. So Mr. McGowan has met with the cafeteria director to figure out why is that happening, and we don't have a clear picture on that just yet. I don't know if Keith, you have a...
There actually has been some individual student outreach. Mr. McGowan and Mrs. So have not heard back from those students to kind of learn a little more. Based on what was reported, we wanted to kind of dig in and do a little deeper. The hope is that those students will engage, and if not, obviously yielding from any type of survey, will respond. I am hearing from food services in general that, you know, there may be a few items from time to time that run out, but it's not at the consistent level that it has been reported. So we have been monitoring it. Obviously, the things that as menu cycles go through, those things that are popular gain extra portions that are prepared, and those that fall off, there's a ebb and flow to that occurs. So we're trying to isolate what those exact items are and then make the adjustment.
What we can do, Maddie, if there are some kids that specifically we can just hear from, like, you know, maybe you and I can work offline after this, and maybe I can report back with a little bit more clarity what we've actually done, what we've learned. So I don't think there's real science to this currently, so but figuring out which kids, if you and I can talk, I can pull those kids aside and say, you know, tell me about your experience, and Mr. McGowan can gather a little bit of information on that. And at the next meeting, I'll put that into my principal's report.
Yeah, I think that's, you know, super helpful to hear from the kids directly, but I mean, we hired Whitson's for a purpose, and they have like tons of data available, so I think it'd be easy just, not for Mr. McGowan to address, but Whitson's, we have a manager who can just pull the data and say, this is what we're, you know, how many, they gave us all the numbers, here's what we're serving a day, or here's where maybe a delivery was delayed, and then there was, you know, they could correlate that stuff. But
Definitely a factor for some items, yep.
I'm sure there's hard data that they could provide to us.
Well, so when we did inquire with them, they did not seem any type of anomalies through their production records and things like that, so we did ask to get a little more specific, and that's why we tried to burrow it down a little bit, so nothing from that yielded anything worth adjusting at the time. So that's where we're trying to get a little more information about what students were experiencing, what were the preferred options, and then making that adjustment. So they're ready to make it. They didn't find anything in their data that would show that something ran out consistently. Is what I asked for, and that wasn't not apparent in their records.
And are they able to kind of look at it in the fine-tuned way of saying, you know, by third lunch, this is what the option, they are? Okay.
They are, yes. And that's really helpful with Mrs. Sayso, Gina Sayso, who's our food services manager in the cafeteria. She's the one that's really being able to get that on a daily, and certainly since we've had these additional reports, she's buried into it and really trying to figure out where those issues are occurring, and she has not found anything alarming so far, but maybe it just hasn't happened yet. So that's the type of stuff we're trying to investigate. So a combination of, John, to your point, a combination of Whitson's working with our staff there, actually in the CAF to make some adjustments.
Good question. So do the same kids have the same lunch every day, or does it vary by day?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Do the same kids have the same lunch period? Like, would I have, if I have the first lunch, do I have first lunch?
Gotcha. When you
every
said same lunch, I was thinking like more like the phrase
Burger.
food. Yeah, that's right. I was like, well, some kids, yeah, I think they probably do, but I don't know if I have that information.
They do.
No, our bell schedule rotates, so they have basically 7 different lunch possibilities almost over the course of, so some kids might have a first lunch. It depends on what, we distribute the lunch by corridor, so if math might have first lunch on one day and second lunch on another day, so students could have first, second, or third lunch almost in equal distribution.
Which does make the predicting of those patterns for third lunch more challenging because it's a different group of kids.
Right.
So that's one of the variables that is being worked into the system.
Yeah, but they should have enough to know, like, they're gonna serve 32 smoothies
Right.
every day, and distribute it equally. They could hold those, yeah.
And I just, then I didn't want to shortchange the mental health piece of it too, but, so similarly for that, if students are bringing up particularly concerns, and this is consistent with the 2 students who presented at the combined meeting when I had a conversation with them about, that they were talking about the holidays, but part of that was around stress and managing certain expectations for academic, like test studying and things like that. So as you're seeing these kinds of things come up, how are you able to like also communicate that with, and I guess this is a question for you, Madison, whether or not students feel like empowered to bring that to guidance or to the folks who might be able to impact some of those changes and administration work. I know you've already talked a lot about some of the initiatives, but.
I think, especially on the student side, I think it's pretty like 50-50 which it depends on the student. Because I feel like some students see the stress that they've, and they believe that they've sort of like put it on themselves because they've joined so many things, so they don't necessarily speak up about it as much as a student who maybe wants a little bit more support and actively is like seeking that. So I think it truly just like depends on the situation. But I think like any endeavor that the school does, such as like what Ms. Honey was saying with like the mental health week or any sort of thing like that, I think every student who is experiencing high levels of stress or mental health issues appreciates to some degree.
Yeah, and I can just add, and Madison's on the school council, and one of the things we have been increasingly looking at is students are choosing to overschedule themselves. So we're looking at, as an endeavor for school council, and it'll be after Madison graduates, but it'll be a project for next year to look at the benefits of study halls, because really there's not a real reason why every student has to take as packed a schedule as 90% of our students do, and I think parents are not totally aware that you could have a study hall in your schedule and still easily achieve the number of credits you need to graduate, and that's not known to most families. And it's just become the culture and the expectation that every student schedules themselves through all 7 classes. And we're examining that because we don't want to jump right into making some sweeping changes and have those changes be frowned upon by colleges and employers after the fact. So we're taking our time to get that right. So that's something I think you'll hear from me more about next year, to be strategically looking at how unstructured time can be supportive of kids. And we're aware of that, but students' schedules typically do not reflect what we know, which is everybody needs a bit of a break in their day. And then one other thing, the Metro West Adolescent Health Survey results are going to be coming out in the next probably 2 to 4 weeks, so that will reflect what the survey results from the fall, and that we haven't seen new results in 2 years. So we'll see if there's any new trend lines, and the ones that have jumped out in the last few survey administrations have been related to dropping drug and alcohol use, but increasing or not dropping as fast mental health concerns.
Thank you. And I think it's great to have it coming from all different fronts with the survey too, but it is interesting that, the students are bringing this in as a concern themselves, and for it to get to the point where students are saying my mental health is suffering or I have concerns about that, I think that indicates a certain level of severity that we need to really take seriously however we can. Yeah.
And before that data comes in, we know what we need to be doing, which is somehow lightening their load, bringing in humor, that high touch, all the things that we've talked about, like, rather than wait to follow the data, it's there anecdotally. So what can we do to mobilize joy and purpose and curiosity? I love that Ms. Honey used the word curiosity. It's something I feel like has been pretty well thumped out of a lot of students. And so I just wonder, where are we ramping up? If this is cyclical, if this is now, that crunching of the semester toward AP exams, what are we doing that can help counteract it?
Well, I anticipate that the change in graduation requirements, which will have the students taking twice as many art classes as has been required in the past, will have students doing more hands-on work, more creative work that represents a bit of a cognitive downshift for them and is enjoyable. My hope is that will start to generate results. And we've added 8 new courses going into next year, and I'd have to count them up. It would take a moment. I think 6 out of the 8 are hands-on courses. There's a guitar course, there's a piano course, there's a sculpture course. They're representing the courses that we need to add to support the graduation requirements shift. I think those will start to grow in over time because they only start with next year's freshmen. So this will take time. I think a systemic issue of students' mental health being really challenging is going to require a multi-year systemic response. That's one of them.
Thank you.
I think study halls is the other. I don't want to be talking about study halls all the time, but it's really about unstructured time and how students need to hear from.
I think a big issue too with students is, by nature, high school teachers work in silos and departments work in silos. So as a student, you're getting assignments from
Yes.
teachers and tests and quizzes, independent from that coordination across a student's, educators that they work with. So, there are weeks, I'm sure, where there isn't coordination. As a result, there's a ton of homework and a ton of tests and quizzes. So I think that's an area we can look at, as trying to use the data we have around when, key tests and homework assignments are given, and how does that impact a student, rather than everyone doing their own thing and then student kind of having to manage a workload that's not realistic.
One time.
And if
I
you
was-
have the answer to that, Ron, then
No, that is a challenge, and you're absolutely right about that.
One time I was consulting at AMSA, and it was sort of early in its process, and it was just so grim over there. I mean, you get middle schoolers carrying the Iliad around and despising it. And I mean, it really was just, they were learning a lot about teaching. But one of the things that happened was, all of a sudden, on the speaker system came this countryish sound and dancing, and every kid and every teacher got out in the hallways and did this line dance that they were taught, and the laughter, and I'm telling you, in 5 minutes, they totally shifted the physiology. And they carried their Homer, a little lighter. I've never seen anything like it. It was before they actually had built the gym facilities, and so that was sort of how they were trying to wrap it in, but blasts of joy. Sounds really groovy.
Are there any rock, paper, scissors contests
Yeah.
coming up?
That's coming up, yeah.
Where does joy and laughter fit into an intense education? I think it has a beautiful place.
Well, I mean, Madison did just present 2 pages worth of
Yeah.
stuff that's going on.
For good and bad,
It's not
yeah.
like we're ignoring it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and I will also add, and then I can carry on perhaps, but this is a time period where we're seeing a lot of field trips, and we all remember field trips growing up, and there's a lot. And DECA, which is a high-performing group of students, but boy, do they love getting ready for that event and showing off and coming home with an armful of trophies. So they just spent 3 days in Boston, and it's a trip that was approved here and they appreciate that support. Currently, right now, we have 8 or 9 kids in New York City at the Columbia Scholastic Press Association. We are for sure going to win an award. We know going in, they let you know, we don't know which level. So I guess what I'm getting at is we have high-performing kids doing highly academic things that they also really love doing, and get a lot of enjoyment and joy out of that. I know that's not, you're not indicating otherwise, but that's something that we take a lot of pride in, and it's happening quietly and invisibly around the school, or even in New York City, as is the case right now.
On a different note, I just wanted to, the career expo field trip, is that the structure you set up a couple years ago? So
Yeah, I'm really proud of that.
acknowledge-
So 4 years ago,
Yeah.
I created with the Marlborough Chamber of Commerce this
Yeah.
event where 6 schools convene to hear from panels of industry experts or people in industry in kind of a short kind of carousel fashion where they just learn from those individuals. So it happened at the Salmon Pond Mall. We had 180 or 190 kids this year from 6 different schools. We had 25 of our own. It's facilitated by a different person at each station. Most of them are facilitated by area principals who bring their own kids. So that continues to be just really a nice success, and it's reliable, and Salmon Pond Mall's great. Marlborough Chamber of Commerce is excellent about it too. It's been a nice, it's starting to just kind of take shape. Next year, I think we're gonna maybe invite some of the state reps to kind of see, now that we have it all, it's just a reliably enjoyable event.
Thank you. Any other questions? It was probably our longest discussion.
Yes.
I actually just have a comment, if you don't mind, about, being a teacher myself, one of the conversations I have with students pretty frequently is, because I hear a lot about the mental stress that students almost self-subject themselves to. So there's this notion that I think students really want to challenge themselves with the most challenging schedule that they possibly can. And then I hear students say something like, I'm going to take AP Chemistry, I'm going to take AP Language, I'm going to take AP Calculus, I'm going to take AP Statistics, I'm going to take an AP History, and I'm going to do that all at once. And I can't help but think that I think that students and families need to be a little bit more realistic to a degree. on like what that student wants to do and what they want to focus on and what's going to allow them to achieve the career objectives or the post-high school objectives that they want, with the understanding that classes are stressful. It is very difficult to mitigate the stress that goes along with these classes, especially with AP classes, because the school doesn't control the curriculum. That, you know, you have an AP curriculum, you know, you start right around, you know, Labor Day, and then that all has to be essentially completed before April vacation. Whereas in other parts of the country, they actually have a longer period of time to present the same amount of material. So there's this kind of crunch, if you will, to try to get all that material covered in a relatively short period of time. And so I would just ask, I would say that this is an issue, and it is a real issue. And I think just students and families need to be mindful that the choices that are made when selecting classes can have real impacts on a student's well-being.
And I would say, you know, the class at the college level would be far easier than what they're doing with the high schoolers, which begs the question for me how developmentally appropriate some of these have been with the workload levels at the high school level versus what you would get in a college class.
So I have just a few things to share. One is to give you an update on our progress on one of our key strategic goals this year, which is a through line from a few years worth of work. So and I've explained this before, we do not have, and haven't had for some time, a uniform singular place where our curriculum is mapped out and available for, let's say, a new teacher hire to see what they're teaching and how they're teaching it and what resources exist. As well, we don't have an outward-facing document that a family could go to and say, you know, what will my child learn in this course? So that's a gap that we were aware existed, and that NEASC, in their report, it was their primary area of concern, and so for all those reasons, we made it a major strategic priority for ourselves. That work does take a fair amount of time to do well and with depth and with rigor, and so I'm just sharing with you the goal we set is here. The action has been to populate standardized curriculum maps that are streamlined, accessible for teachers, easily editable, and aligned with the portrait of a graduate. It was really important to the leadership team that whatever they create is almost like a living document that teachers do find usefulness out of, and that they can update and keep updated and go into and keep it current, and so that it's useful. And so that work, I have the timeline for that work here. Last spring, the department heads established a singular template that works for them, and then began to create maps for whole units. And then what started to happen, and this is not a surprise, different departments had different really department-centered initiatives that took precedence. So they didn't immediately jump on curriculum mapping because, for example, about 60% of our teachers received new line boards this year and had to spend time kind of getting acquainted and trained on those. Simultaneously, other departments started to populate their maps. So we are at different kind of stages by department on the amount of curriculum mapping that has occurred. What will happen is on Monday, we have a PD session for the high school, and some of the departments are going to be using that time to build out their curriculum maps, and it gives the teachers the chance to go back to the drawing board on each course and go back to the standards and make sure that there's consistency in the course and that the maps reflect that consistency. So that work is going to be really go from point A to point B really quickly on Monday, because a lot of teachers are going to be spending some of that time doing that work. We will be, and just today we actually were unifying what the criteria for a successful map would look like. So this work is just slow. It's not the most glamorous work, but it's happening quietly over time. We will be submitting a report to NEASC in May to report out on our progress on where they saw that we were mildly deficient, I would say, and this will be what we're reporting. I suspect that they'll be happy to hear that. Our goal is that at the end of next year, all of our core curriculum maps are fully articulated and outward facing, and then any other, when I say all other maps, those are like singleton courses you might have a teacher who teaches for singletons, they're not going to be able to map out all those courses in a short period of time. So those are our small enrollment electives would be complete by the 28th, June 28th. But that was our major undertaking for this year, and we're excited to see at the end of next year what it all looks like when it comes into the finish.
Could I just add maybe
Sure.
a suggestion for a bullet, maybe for like June of '29, to do like a follow-up on the core curriculum to see if the teachers have achieved their objective of making live documents?
Yeah, like see if people have wandered away from them, yeah, or the documents, yeah. Okay.
But before you, can I?
Yeah, sorry.
So, as I mentioned, I've been doing this a long time. And I feel like I am always, and I'm not a teacher, so I don't know about, like you said, the unglamorous part of this. I feel like I'm always hearing about curriculum mapping.
Yeah.
It is always something that we need to do. Why am I still hearing about it? Is it because it just keeps getting bumped when all these other things come up? Or is it because curriculum is so fluid that it's because the tools, we keep changing the tools? Like, why is it always such a challenge?
That's a good question. I think probably there's a great deal of teacher autonomy, and teachers are not always prioritizing, making sure that what I'm teaching and what you're teaching is really closely aligned, and it's important that we make sure for quality control purposes and orient around the standards that there's a level of understanding that there's a limit to teacher autonomy. And so, but at the same time, it's easy to have it take a backseat to many other initiatives that come along. So we are trying to strike a balance of having curriculum maps that are really easily accessible and editable, and I just think the technology tools that exist now, which is really just Google Docs, didn't exist when curriculum mapping was a little bit more burdensome. And I think some of those we're using to our advantage so that we don't have to keep talking about it, it just becomes the way we do business.
There is a 5-year cycle, or there is a cycle, I think you've presented that before, on curriculum review. This might be just a documenting of what's there, but curriculum should be reviewed on a regular basis too, so.
I would agree.
Right.
I mean, I think that it's both and, right? Like, I think to the point Sean made that there's, like, we are constantly thinking about what we're teaching, how it's working for the kids in front of us, what's changing kind of in the field, and trying to stay aligned and calibrated and have common learning experiences for students across the same courses and things like that. And so there's a documentation piece and there's a intellectual piece that is the collaboration and things. And so the tool we had used, which you probably remember the last time there were lots of conversations, was Atlas. And it did not serve us well over time, in the sense that it didn't, literally the software did not improve, and so it became very static and kind of clunky. It served us well to kind of document and get on the same page again, and then we were a little stuck because it wasn't super user friendly. So it's both and we have a curriculum and instruction review process, which the high school has been refining kind of what that looks like at the high school level, which should always, on a regular cycle, keep pushing us back in to look at the data. How are our students doing, and how does that push us back to curriculum conversations?
So it'll never be done.
It's never done.
Right. Yeah, right.
And quite frankly, for a lot of teachers, there's a lot of enjoyment in the curriculum work. So, meaning that that's where there's a lot of decisions and things, especially at the high school level where we have more homegrown curriculum.
Yeah, and I would say, and it's not a reason to do it, but it's an advantage I'm starting to understand a little bit more and more, are the number of years of service of many of our staff members. They're gaining toward retirement, and we do want to capture what are those practices when we're seeing lots of people retiring out. There's a lot of institutional memory and practice there that we are not going to be able to recapture once they've left. So there's a little bit of little bit of that. That's not the reason to do it, but that's a benefit we're starting to see, that people are leaving behind, you know, their practices, and we want to make sure we're capturing what was excellent about those practices and incorporate that.
And I think the key is, we'll go through this exercise, we'll have our maps, is that what is the process to update them every year? And what is that, you know, that it's just what we do every year versus the last initiative, it was a large initiative, and I think we had curriculum mapping fatigue. And we finished, and then there was an exhale. And then it wasn't picked up again, versus having it be something as, you know, it's a part of our routine.
Right.
that we
There's
do.
a maintenance, a level of maintenance that we'll achieve that should be a light lift once we do it well one time.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. A shift that I wanted to make you aware of, and this is really reporting out on behalf of the PTO that I work very, very closely with. And I think you're probably aware, and maybe I've talked about this a little bit, they've done the junior post-prom party, the JPPP, for easily 3 decades. I think many of you are familiar with it. But students, and it was initially an event to make sure that students had a substance-free social event to encourage good decision-makings and keep them safe. Students, and this is not just an Algonquin thing, students are just not as interested in staying overnight at a kind of an overnight lock-in event as they were when we were younger, perhaps, and just their attitudes about this event have changed, which we see from low enrollments in the events that the PTO has been putting on, or late enrollments. What I mean by that, they're trying to have Apex put on an event which costs $25,000. We still don't know until a day before if kids are going to show up, because students are just making decisions later, and anybody who has a teenager knows asking them to commit to an event a month ahead of time, a social event a month ahead of time is not success. Is not a recipe for success. So they went from the New England Sports Center on Donald Lynch Boulevard, and we moved it to Apex last year and shortened up the time window, which in response to some students in last year, they really had a very difficult time attracting enough students and even charging a nominal amount, which was $25 for hours of unlimited arcade and bowling and food and all those things, and still did not get big numbers. And this year they've decided to move away from that. We did a class-wide survey of the junior class to see what they want from a prom event, post-prom, pre-prom, or at the prom, and students were very clear that this model is just not working for them anymore. So the PTO will shift or pivot their attention and their resources to enriching prom in some way, just use some of that, some of their funds to just make the prom experience have more features that the cost of which will be passed on to students through their ticket.
So I have to commend you,
Okay.
but I also have to commend my daughter, because she explained it almost exactly how
Okay, there you go. Thank you.
So well done. So your perspective is actually the
Yeah.
student's perspective.
Phew. Oh, well, thank
I
you.
just heard it.
Yes, last year, 24 hours before having this event at Apex, they had sold 60 tickets. And there were 280 kids in that class, and then 100 more kids came in that last 24-hour period. And you can imagine, it's like putting on a wedding for $20,000. You cannot do that in 24 hours. You cannot have that kind of uncertainty. And then I will just also add, having attended that last year, the kids who were there had a great time. They also are the students who are not on our radar for drug and or alcohol involvement. I think we were putting on a social event, which was a success and which was great, but was not attracting the students we really want to steer away from substance use. So I think it's a model that had its day, and it's just a shift.
Going way back, I think it was also to keep them off the roads.
Yes.
You know, regardless of, because whether they do anything or not, they're tired.
Yes, right.
So I hope that whatever plans you guys talk about in the future, it'll somehow, I mean, I don't know how to fix that problem. Clearly, they thought locking them up all night wasn't.
And then I would add, you might recall from a previous presentation I did, we are working really closely with Encompass to do push-in, building-wide programming 9 through 12 that isn't just happening in health classes. So this is a substance prevention effort that was like a one-time standalone nighttime event, and really we're doing it a little bit more strategically 9 through 12 and with our partners in town. So I feel good about where we are for substance use prevention, and that this event just, I think, is kind of an older model that we all enjoyed, but it's worth noting that we're retiring it this year.
I think, in addition to your point, I agree, it was to keep people off the roads. I think the awareness of drinking and driving is much higher than it was 30 years ago. And the availability of Uber and or DriveShare is amazing.
Yeah.
And so you'd be blown away as to these kids that are actually just rideshare. So,
Excellent.
it's happening.
Just one more anecdote. I asked my son about this development. He said, honestly, the most dangerous part of that night was probably driving home because I was so tired.
That always worried me.
At 5 in the morning.
5 in the morning.
Which made me think,
Yeah.
maybe I should have driven him home.
Yeah.
But I would have been tired.
That did worry me. It was like, yes, because also keep in mind they were up all night bowling and whatnot, but they just came from the prom. Like they went from the prom to a whole night of chicken fingers and bowling and ice skating and things. And that concludes my report, so if anybody has any other questions.
Thank you. So next up is the enrollments.
So as of 2/12, the enrollment report, no significant changes. And then we have Becky with her financial reports.
So I will begin with the 3 new function codes that are showing as over budget and the FY26 monthly general fund report. So those are the assistant superintendent function code, and that is over by $89.02.
We have spoken with Stephanie.
Yes. No more books for you. So that is the purchase of additional supplies. Teacher specialist, that is over by $2,081, and that is as a result of some 504 tutoring that is required. And then also the general supplies, and that is over by $1,327, and that is due to some additional postage funds that were needed on our postage machine. So those are the 3 items that are showing as over budget. In terms of the overall operational budget, you can see that we do have $504,143, or 1.7% of the total operational budget remaining. So that is an increase from the previous month's monthly I cannot talk tonight. I'm having a tough time. Which is an increase of $106,000 from last month. And that is really, again, due to that payroll timing. It seems like every other month we're in that cycle because of when the payroll falls. And so Elena had taken down some of her encumbrances for the substitute lines in the Medicare. So those encumbrances were not showing, and so that's why you're seeing a little bit more of a balance on the bottom line. But really, we are just about 3/4 of the way through the fiscal year, and we are trending about where we were last year at this time with the operational budget.
Are there any questions?
Can I just ask a question on this? When you say that about the reduction, so it means, did you encumbered it on the expectation that we would have the cost, and then as time went by, we didn't have the cost that we were expecting?
No, so when she's doing her payroll, we have the encumbrances, like for the Medicare tax, for example, we set that money aside. She takes that encumbrance and zeroes it out while she's doing her work, and then she goes back in based on her new calculations and adds the encumbrance back in. So because she had taken the encumbrance down, that's why it was showing that there was more money on the bottom line. I don't know if that makes sense.
So it was just,
It's just a timing thing, yes, yeah. So I need to make sure that when she's running her payroll, if at all possible on the last day of the month, that she's not taking that encumbrance down.
So you were showing too much cost for the year.
Yes, yeah.
That wasn't right.
But it is true
I'm
that,
not criticizing it,
No,
but
yeah,
just the way, the manner in which you had excess cost in the reports we saw last month.
No, actually, the costs are true for last month. These are showing that we actually have more
on the bottom line because we're not showing our anticipated cost for the remainder of the year. So the Medicare line, I think it only shows that we have like $100,000 remaining, which we should not have that much remaining on that line item.
Can I try again?
Sure,
So the
sorry.
combination of actual cost and the remaining encumbered was too high last period.
It was not too high, it was more accurate. This is not as accurate. This report was not as accurate.
This one's not.
Yes, yes, just because those encumbrances are not.
Yeah, so I think what you stated is accurate in terms of encumbrances. They are reviewed and changed as we get better figures from month to month. So that does cause variations from month-to-month reports. In this particular case,
Yes,
it was just a timing.
it was just a timing issue. And so what I need to make sure is on the last day of each month, because these reports are static as of that
Yeah.
date, is that she's not making that adjustment if at all possible. So that it is a more accurate reflection for when I'm running them for the school committee. So that is some work that needs to be done. Other
That's
questions?
why we recommend approval until audited.
Exactly. Exactly.
Any other questions?
So was that a motion, Matt, for this?
So I can convert that into so I make a motion to, does this so you went over the variances. No? Do we typically approve the variances and then we go through the?
We do.
Alright.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to accept the variances as presented. All in the same language in the future.
I'll second. What, you made the motion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said you
I
seconded.
second, yeah.
Okay.
Any
And I
discussion?
didn't-
It's time for me to go to bed.
You're in good company.
I'm with you.
We'll all talk, we'll all see.
Any other discussion? So that's a roll call vote. Joan?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, that passes unanimously. I will move on to the revenue report. So this is the revenue report as of February 28th. During the month of February, we received the assessments from both Northborough and Southborough. So we have received 3 out of the 4 assessments for FY26. In addition to that, you can see we're continuing to see athletic receipts. Those are mainly gate receipts. And then we also saw some parking fees, and that can be attributed. We generally see, I think, an uptick probably at the beginning of the spring semester with some of our newer drivers who are looking to purchase parking fees. So not a super exciting report. Many of the things that we see on a month-to-month basis, but again, if you look at that bottom line, total revenue, we're just about at the 75% for our revenues for FY26.
And we never like super exciting statement of revenue reports.
Boring is good.
Yeah, well, when we get those regional transportation,
Well,
that's
yeah.
very exciting, so.
It's all relative.
Yeah.
Perspective.
Any questions or discussion on that? So I'll entertain a motion to approve the fiscal year 26 statement of revenue. It's presented in your packet.
Second.
Seconded by John. Is that right? Okay. So there's no any discussion. Roll call vote. Joan.
Yes.
John.
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
Paul.
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
Sean.
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Matt.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That passes unanimously.
The next item is the budget calendar, and I'll highlight the Southborough Town Meeting, which is scheduled for April 11th. We encourage Southborough members of the committee to attend. I'm expecting, I'm not sure what to expect, and I think having committee representation at the town meeting is really important on April 11th. It's a Saturday, begins at 10 a.m. And hopefully when we're at our April school committee meeting, we'll have Southborough approved regional budget, and Northborough's town meeting is April 27th. So we'll have some time before we have an actual regional approved budget by both communities.
Is it early in the vote? You don't know?
Typically it's part of the consent agenda, so it's usually in the first hour. And then we have our capital articles, which are typically later on the agenda.
Those would be the K through 8 capital articles, yes.
Never mind. But do vote, I mean, do come to hear about the K through 8 budget too. And then the approved budget is in your packet.
Is that a question?
Joan?
Go ahead, Joan.
Yes, thank you. Greg, I had a question. If a Northborough member wants to attend the Southborough town meeting, is the process to let Cheryl Lebrey know?
Yes, and we'll notify the town clerk.
Okay, all right, so, we can just send an email to Cheryl Lebrey and let her know we want to attend.
It's $25 for non-residents.
It's like a parking.
It's a Greg Martin.
Okay, I think it was higher than that, thank you.
So back to you for the approved budget, or you just wanted to say
Approved
that's
budget
in the
is
packet?
in your packet.
Any discussion or questions about that? So moving on to old business, there is none at this time. So next up is policy development distribution, the competency determination policy J400. It's in your packet.
Yep. So it's just a distribution.
Next up is public comment. I see no one in the audience. Is there any committee members who'd like to say anything for public comment? Yes, Joan?
I guess I'd just like to report that I'm going to be attending, it's a webinar that is for virtual on Friday from 12 to 1. And it is being sponsored by MASC, and it is titled Why Massachusetts Students Need Personal Finance as a Graduation Requirement. And I'd like to report that I talked to Stephanie today, who then will talk to Sean, and talked about that Massachusetts is thinking of making that a requirement, and I want to know where we stood on our classes for the Algonquin students. And Stephanie and Sean gave back a good report on the different classes we have. So at the next meeting in April, for an agenda, I would like to just report back what I learned from that meeting. And I didn't know if Stephanie or Sean had anything else to say, if they wanted to highlight next meeting, you know, what courses we offer to our students. It would count for personal finance as a graduation requirement.
We can
Next
do that.
meeting agenda.
Yep, happy to do that.
Next up is personnel. Looks like there's no changes
I
at
know,
this
it's
time.
one of those rare reports.
Not an exciting report.
It's like Becky's report.
Yep, and then communications, not at this time. Approval of bills and payrolls are done electronically. So finally are the agenda items for next month, which we have one to add, which, thank you, Joan. Any other items that people have right now they'd like to add? And as always, you can email me directly if something comes up.
I'm just acknowledging that we have 3 members who, it will be their last regional school committee meeting until they decide to run in the future. So, we'll have an opportunity to acknowledge the years of service, which will be nice. And I might have cupcakes, so we'll see.
Are you not running again?
It's not my year.
So at this point, I will make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Yeah, we do need, I am really like done. Seconded by Matt. This is a roll call. Joan?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
And myself, that's a yes, so we adjourned at 8:11 PM.
Good night, Joan.